Good morning, everyone. I'm Chris Parker. This is Chris Nishihara. We're with the Ishihara and Parker Law Firm in Longview, Texas, and we're rolling slowly today. Our topic today, though, is one on how do we deal with our digital assets? How do we our digital presence online, if you will, Facebook, Google, Instagram, those kind of things, and how that advice may have changed over the years.
Yeah. So if I passed away today, what happens to my Gmail account? What happens to my Facebook account? What happens to all these things? How do my loved ones access it? Because there's actually a lot of important things that go through my personal email, my online accounts, and nobody would really have access to
all those pictures on Facebook you took for the last 20 years, those emails between family members. There's a lot of
things we don't think about. So, you put your will in place, great, good job. And then what happens to these things? How do we best set those up? And there's kind of evolving, answers to this. Yeah. So it's kind of hard in the space to figure that out. And it's not as simple as saying in your will, you have access to digital assets as the executor, because all of the terms of service that you are entering into with your Facebook, with your Gmail, with all these things, that actually is going to control. So we have to talk about what their individual process is and how best to set you up for that.
Yeah, so traditionally when folks would come in, they would get their documents done. We'd recommend them make a list of their assets, and then we have them make a list of their online presences. Like I have an email account with Hotmail or Gmail. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram, and these are my login credentials and all those kind of things. So you may be a family member, and suddenly you have mom or dad's Hotmail account or Yahoo account or whatever it may be. And you're thinking, great, I can log on, I can check it out, do that kind of business. And there's a couple things to consider, right? Yeah, you might have the ability, but you may lack the authority, right? Just because you can do it, one, don't be so certain. A lot of times those security functions kick off as suddenly a different IP address is using it. Yes, you may have the login. Yes, you know the password, but do you know the follow-up security questions?
Yeah, that's evolved a lot with time, right? Which is great. Yep. I mean, that just makes us all more secure. Yep. But now, even if I have mom's password and I try and log in from my computer, that's not probably going to work out for me.
Right, you're going to get locked out.
Yeah.
And of course, even if you did get on it, your mom or loved one signed terms of service with these different companies, and you are probably not allowed to access it that way.
Yeah, you are not legally accessing that, even if you have the practical ability to get in there, which still might be better than not having it, honestly, but not our official advice, of course. But you're not legally accessing that online account to handle things. Each of those providers has a system to go through and make sure that you have that done. The other practical problem with that is I think we all have to change our passwords so much now. Yeah. There's just and there's so many passwords. I think it's really difficult for someone to have an up-to-date password list for all of the passwords that they have.
You really need an OCD parent who's just every day, I love cats 22, I love cats 23, just cutely updating.
And then they probably already got hacked because they have the same password on every account that they have. Yeah. So, our evolving times make that somewhat of a challenge. But the good news is that most providers online are starting to have a system in place. Mm-hmm. And what we talk about today may be outdated by next week, right? So you're going to have to go to the source, figure out what their process is. But the number one thing we want you to know is that there is a process.
Right.
There is going to be some way to set this up through the provider themselves so that you can make sure somebody trusted handles those digital presences, whatever accounts you have at your death, and those are taken care of the way you want them.
Just like your assets, you make a list. Just like your online presences, you make a list, and that way your loved ones know where to start, and you can kind of follow through. Obviously, the big one we're talking about today is, of course, the one we're on, Facebook.
Yeah.
Does Facebook, so what are our options? What can we do?
Sure. So Facebook, you probably want to make sure that you go in and set what's called a legacy contact. So I've actually gone through the process recently, so I will tell you what it is, but of course subject to change because all those things change regularly. But if you go into your Facebook under settings, personal details, account ownership and control, you can make a choice to either memorialize your Facebook account and then create a legacy contact, or deactivate and delete it upon a certain period of time. So I think that's great.
Yep.
Because most of us probably have a preference. Do I want my Facebook profile to be around after I pass away? No, I'd like it to go away. Or yes, I would like for it to be there so people could visit it and post things on it. So if you select a legacy contact, you can tell them who the person is that you want to be in charge of your account. That person would have some limited access to change your profile and cover photo. They can add or take away friends. They can't like continue to use your profile, but they do have some limited access to control it. So if you want to keep it as a memorial page, great. Make sure you appoint somebody as a legacy contact to do that. That will make the process a whole lot easier.
Seen a couple of those on Facebook. My own feed's pretty neat. Pretty neat. Allows families to remember, birth dates and anniversaries, and definitely something special. But obviously, you are the owner, so you need to make those decisions, or otherwise you'll be leaving it to your, 3 favorite kids to squabble over
and
who's
they may
in
have different
charge.
opinions.
That's right.
What is your opinion? What do you want?
I don't know if I've formed one yet. My wife, being my better half, is I'll probably just leave that decision to her.
Okay.
Yeah.
I want to be deleted.
Deleted.
Yeah.
All right. All right.
Now you
She's
know.
gone.
Yes.
She's gone.
But your legacy contacts can also delete your profile after a period of time, which I think is nice. So my wishes, should you need to know them, are I would like for 6 months to be memorialized on Facebook and then shut down.
Yep.
I don't want to live
fireworks every month until that 6 month mark.
But also really important with the legacy contact that they have access to your photos to be able to save them. Because I'm certainly guilty of taking a photo, putting it on Facebook, not saving it, not having it anywhere else.
I mean, I think Facebook's claim to fame is all those photos we have out there.
Absolutely.
I mean, you don't want to lose those.
Of course, that's our age.
That's
there are lots
true.
of other mediums out there that
You
are
young
below.
folks. You young folks.
We did not look up the ways to change your Snapchat, Instagram. Yes, sorry. But I promise there is a use for those. Go on that platform, figure it out. Instagram is actually probably Facebook because I think they own them, right?
I think so.
Yeah. So Google would take care of YouTube. Facebook probably takes care of Instagram, but honestly, I didn't look that up. But every online profile you have should have an option to figure out what you want to happen to death. So make sure you do that.
My poor MySpace account from all
That
those
still
years
exists.
ago. Yeah.
We probably are still on there.
Next big one we have out there, of course, if we're talking about Facebook, we got to talk about Google, right? Not just for search engines. You got YouTube, where you're also probably watching this, all sorts of other fun things. What do we do for Google?
Yeah, Google is an inactive account manager. And this one is a little more proactive, so I appreciate that about Google. But if you are inactive for a period of time, and you get to select the period of time, I think mine is 3 months as their default. But if you are inactive in Google for that period of time, they start to wonder if you've passed away, and they will actually delete your account after a period of inactivity. Yeah. So I set mine for 3 months. And then I've selected an inactive account manager. So that would be my husband. So he will get an email saying Kristen's been inactive in her Google profile for 3 months. You're her inactive account manager. Here's some access to some things that you might need, like her email or other things. And then you get to decide what happens to the account, which is great. I mean, that's exactly what we want to happen. Specifically for that email, I mean, that's my login for the utility company. That's my login for all sorts of things. So if I passed away, it would be a difficulty to not have access to it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. I'm glad they do that because Google is everywhere. So might as well take advantage of the process. Make sure your loved one or spouse knows it, because when that person doesn't normally pay the bills, suddenly is dealt with crisis and is having to pay the bills, the last thing you need is more headaches.
Yeah, absolutely. And in there, so this one, again, is relatively easy. So from your phone, you can go to your Google profile, do data and privacy, and then make a plan for your digital legacy. And then I've created a inactive contact that can be given access to data, and then that person can choose to delete it, or you there can choose to delete your Google after a certain period of time. And I think that's a really nice option. So if maybe I didn't have a trusted family member that I wanted to have those things, I can just tell Google I want it deleted after 6 months. I think that's great.
Yeah, nice. Give you choices.
Yeah.
If you take advantage of them. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think you added this one for me. Microsoft Outlook. Hotmail accounts. I personally like
Outlook
those.
is all of our emails now, our work emails.
Good. Yeah.
And Hotmail, but yes.
So what is Outlook seems to be taking? Microsoft seems to be taking a different approach.
Indeed.
What does our research show us on
Microsoft has officially on their support or help, just use the username and password and make sure somebody has it, because they have no formal process. So, and that is because our emails now are Longview Estate Plan are Outlook emails. So the answer is you cannot designate somebody to take that over for you, and that's a paid service that you are, paying for. So at some point in time, that will stop being paid for, presumably. So the best advice we have on that is to write down your username and password and make sure someone has access to it.
Yep. I love all these passwords and usernames are writing everywhere. Sounds like a real fiasco.
I know.
If
Please
a bad
don't
person,
save those online. Our advice is not to put those online anywhere. You will get hacked. Write them down on a piece of paper.
And don't let any ne'er-do-well actors in your house get access to this stuff, or you will be sorry. Okay, and of course, the big one, the one that really pains us sometimes because of what we could lose, our Apple, our iTunes accounts. You know,
Yeah.
love Apple, spend a lot of money at the
I
Parker
know.
household running through these darn videos.
Yeah.
Surely I keep them forever and
I
ever.
know. I paid $20 for
Right?
this movie.
I mean, it's not just a license for a certain amount of time. It's got to be
No,
for my
that would be
life
crazy.
and forever and ever.
Yeah,
But-
technology advances. Yeah, this is actually where I started with this question.
Yeah.
What happens to all of these iTunes movies that my husband has purchased for our home if he passed away? Do I still get these movies? No. They are licenses for the person that bought them to own during their lifetime, and that subscription license ends at their death. So, good to know, right? But the options.
So the longest life expectancy person
That's
in the
right.
house
I
should
think
be
the
buying
message
these.
was
Yeah.
I should have been purchasing these.
Yeah, or
right?
the children.
Yeah, absolutely. But so the things that we would recommend with Apple would be you should have family sharing. So of course, within your family, everybody ends up with an Apple profile because everybody just does. So if you have a family sharing, then all of those people can access your digital assets. So even though my husband purchased them, we have family sharing between myself and the kids. So if something happened to him, I'm still able to access those things. Because those have been shared with us that way.
Yep, I think there's some big time lawsuits out there involving estates, the famous people who have millions of dollars set up in these iTunes accounts, and who actually owns them. And it turns out Apple.
I think that's interesting. I don't think I've run into that with a client yet, where a person that passed away had enough in there that they really were concerned.
Or how many times do you want to watch the same movie?
I actually watch Pitch Perfect probably 5 times a year.
Yeah. Well, the rest of us
I do rewatch movies.
should have
so
stuck
this
with
would
the
be
old
very upsetting for
DVD,
me.
the old
I
DVD
know.
when it came through there.
That is right.
If you don't know what that is, look it
Lessons
up.
to learn.
Yeah.
The other thing you can do with Apple is create a legacy contact. So that person has a very specific list, though, of things that they are able to access. And specifically on there, they cannot access your licensed media, because that ends at your death, your passwords, your payment information, your apps, your purchases in apps. But they would be able to access some other things that would be helpful to them in transitioning. So setting a legacy contact through Apple is important. This one's also very easy on your phone. If you have an Apple phone, go to settings, click on your Apple ID picture at the top of the page, and do sign in security. And then there's a very easy selection for legacy contact. So still important to do, still recommend that you do that, but also make sure you've shared family information if you can.
Yep. Point of the video is each and every one of your online providers probably has a system or method in which you can choose what you want to happen when you're out there, but you have to take advantage and do it. If you do nothing, but you have done at least a will with a full-blown probate, you'll eventually have an executor appointed, and this lovely problem will fall to them, but it's not always clear if they can solve these problems. Is that
Right.
correct?
Yeah, right. So even if your executor had letters testamentary and they contacted these people, like Microsoft, for example, says on their website they require a subpoena or court order, and they will consider whether to allow that person access, right? Because it's really in the terms of service that you've signed on to and, of course, not read, and, of course, had no say in what was in there.
Yep.
So they're holding all the cards. And so you really couldn't even guarantee that your individual executor could gain access to those things. So go through the process that they have. Make sure that you have your usernames, passwords, normal security questions, normal PINs. So you think about accessing a phone when someone dies. Those are all
Yeah.
face now.
You can
So,
still get around it if you have enough face errors. You can still put in a password. If
but you need to
family
know
knows
the
it,
right
And then
password.
you're still violating the terms of service.
correct?
Probably. Yeah.
Yes.
This is just one of those things. Like even if you did all the probate side of it right, all the pre-planning right, your executor family is still gonna be left with a huge mess. And this honestly is one of the ones that's much easier for you to take care of now
Right.
versus them have it land on them later. Because honestly, your Facebook page may not be a priority. It's probably be like the 18th thing
Yeah.
on the list, but it might be one of the most sentimental.
Yeah, absolutely.
So.
Yeah, just think about how you want that to happen. Again, yeah, not a huge priority, but still something to consider and make sure you've taken care of. So anything else you want to add?
No, I was just thinking my folks have been using, I think it's called Storyworth, where they ask questions and they send in responses written by my parents, about different events or life actions. And I'd hate for those to be lost or misplaced. So,
Yeah, we don't
grandkids might.
do a good job of keeping memories ourselves anymore. I'd look at my Facebook memories.
Absolutely.
I mean, daily.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, good things. Good discussion.
Yeah.
Happy holidays.
Take care, everyone.
Thanks for joining us. See you next time. I am